The British want to prepare for war. Yeah, you heard that right. Not just for peacekeeping or deterrence, not just for vague strategic ambiguity, but for war. Real, conventional, boots on the ground, submarines in the ocean, jet fighters in the sky war. And no, this isn't some clickbait headline or dystopian script from a Netflix drama, but the very words and vision of Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who now insists that preparing for war is not only the top priority of his government, but also the moral obligation of a country living in what he calls a new age of threats. Because, as he bluntly put it, the front line is here. And with that declaration, Britain has launched headfirst into what looks suspiciously like the most dramatic rearmament project since the Cold War, with billions of pounds being poured into the defense, deterrence, and domestic military production at a speed that makes one wonder whether the Treasury has suddenly discovered an old bunker filled with unspent Brexit dividends. Among the headline projects are up to 12 new submarines. Yeah, 12. And a £15 billion program to manufacture nuclear warheads, all part of what Starmer is calling a NATO-first strategy that doubles down on Western unity and muscular deterrence. Add to that another £1.5 billion earmarked for new weapons factories, 6 of them at minimum, all focused on scaling up long-range precision firepower, which sounds great in press releases and slightly terrifying when you realize they're being justified by comparison to the munitions hunger of the war in Ukraine. Because if Ukraine taught NATO one lesson, it's that having a strong military means nothing if your defense industry can't keep up when the shooting starts. Defense Minister John Healey even put it plainly, a military is only as strong as the industry behind it. So now the UK is ramping up not just its defense budget, but its entire defense mindset. Gone are the days of peacetime complacency. This is about war readiness. And war readiness means more than new hardware. It means people, which is awkward because the British Armed Forces are currently suffering from the lowest troop numbers since the 1700s. Yeah, the 1700s. The Army has just over 71,000 personnel, the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force are understaffed, and despite a modest uptick in recruits, the attrition rate remains a gaping wound in the sight of Britain's military capability. And the government's answer? A new strategy document called the Strategic Defense Review, or SDR, which reads like a national recruitment pitch wrapped in camouflage and piped through a brass bugle. The plan includes introducing a military gap year for school and college leavers, a sort of try-before-you-enlist scheme designed to boost interest in military life without demanding immediate long-term commitment. The idea was borrowed from Australia, and whether it actually boosts enlistment or just results in more Instagram posts from boot camp remains to be seen. But the SDR goes further. It suggests teaching children about the importance of the military in schools, not just through history lessons, but by making the idea of military service a viable career path, especially in tech-focused areas like programming, logistics, and cybersecurity. To be honest, that sounds good. And yes, the modern British soldier might still march in uniform, but might also debug drones and code Battlefield AI from a secure server in Yorkshire. And still the core challenge remains. How do you convince people to stay in the forces, not just sign up for a year and then leave? Defense experts like Paul O'Neill from RUSI are not convinced the current ideas are enough. They say the real issue is retention. Salaries, family life, housing, flexibility, these are the factors that will decide whether new recruits stay or flee. And right now, too many are fleeing. The SDR admits that reversing 15 years of recruitment and retention crisis will take more than posters and patriotic appeals. It may take serious investment, up to £2.5 billion per year, just to boost the army to 76,000 soldiers, according to some estimates. And yet, the government seems determined. Starmer has promised to raise defense spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, a significant increase but still below NATO's new benchmark of 3.5%, which is itself a reflection of a world growing more dangerous by the month. And here's where it gets interesting, if not a little troubling. To pay for all this, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is preparing to announce major cuts to social programs. And yes, you heard that right. Welfare is on the chopping block to fund the war readiness. So while the tanks are getting new turrets and the submarines new reactors, which are both very important, some households will be getting fewer benefits. And this is the reality of war prep Britain, a state that is rearming itself at speed, but also choosing which parts of the civilian safety net it can unravel in order to pay for missile silos, which are necessary, I'm saying that again. But there's also the soft power angle. Starmer is already positioning Britain as a leading voice in what he calls the Coalition of the Willing, a Western initiative aimed at assembling an international peacekeeping force to secure any fragile truce that may one day materialize in Ukraine. But here's the catch. Sending British troops to Ukraine or to any post-conflict zone will place enormous stress on a military that is, by its own admission, already under strength. And the irony is inescapable. A country preparing for war with new factories and submarines still does not have enough people to staff the barracks and may soon be forced to stretch what little it has across both the deterrence at home and operations abroad. And as a German, I know very well what that means. And that's not just a logistical risk, it's a political one. Because if the public was already skeptical of Tory military adventures, they may not look kindly on Labour launching its own version, especially when it's funded by cuts to domestic services. But there is a twist. According to O'Neill, the idea of participating in peacekeeping operations, especially if framed as a mission of values, not just force, could actually increase public support for military service. After all, the last big spike in voluntary enlistment came during the Iraq War, of all things. So could a new, reinvigorated British military actually emerge from this moment of crisis and contradiction? Perhaps, but only if the promises of new factories, new gear, and new opportunities are matched with a credible strategy to rebuild trust between the military and the society it serves. And if not, well, Britain may find that it has all the submarines in the world, but not enough people to drive them. And that, as every general knows, is how you lose the next war before it even begins. So yes, the British want to prepare for war, but whether they are truly ready or just hoping to look ready is a question that only time, budgets, and boots on the ground will answer. And let's hope the world doesn't find out the hard way. And if you want to see another video, the next one is right here in the end screen.